right, we also have a big game in the Big Ten. When you look at tradition, when you look at rivalry, when you look at Notre Dame's season forecast and what they're trying to accomplish, but when it comes to the maize and blue, is it really a big game? Notre Dame, Michigan. You get my attention when you say those two names in the same sentence because what it means, again, when it comes to tradition. But Michigan, having lost 2 games in the Big Ten, as valiantly as they fought, and I thought they played really well, and I gave them a lot of credit and still do for fighting back from 21-0 when they could have caved in and collapsed amidst all the whiteout and everything going on around them and the narrative that they had to wait on their back going into the game and then getting down 21-0, falling to Penn State 28-21 when Ronnie Bell couldn't squeeze the football in the end zone in the final minute. But now they're playing Notre Dame, where this was projected to have college football playoff implications on both sides. Michigan having lost 2. It's not a Big Ten game. Does it really mean much? How much are they going to be motivated, Tony?
Well, I think they're both going to be very motivated. This is one of the best rivalries in college football. It's one of my favorites. It doesn't matter if they're both going to be 8-4 after the season or not. But I think this is a game that both teams need. I think for Michigan, it's just to prove to themselves that they're on the right track and they're not in some type of shambles that the rest of the nation is trying to put them in. And if they lose this, then maybe the rest of the nation is correct. I believe they were a 1-point favorite that I saw from today. I like them in this game because I don't really like Notre Dame. So that's where I am. I like Michigan's defense is getting better. I'm not a big Notre Dame offensive guy. So I think maybe the Michigan defense can do well. I don't know if Michigan can run the ball really on anybody unless Shea Patterson is running it as well. That does help them. But then, if he can avoid mistakes, I think they win. That's a big if because, he likes to fumble. He'll throw some bad passes, some odd passes. And so, that's kind of a leap of faith. But I'm siding with Michigan maybe by 3 or 4 in this one. And it helps to propel Michigan on into the rest of the season. And then it gets Notre Dame completely out of the picture, which I think the rest of the nation needs as well.
Right. I mean, if Notre Dame doesn't win this game, they have nobody left on their schedule. They play like Huey, Dewey, and Louie the rest of the way. I mean, they have nothing. So this means everything. Not only does Notre Dame need it, I think they need to win convincingly. Mm-hmm. With Michigan, I mean, if they would have not fought back, I mean, they easily could have, you could stuck a fork in them at that point. But they did valiantly come back to the point and came very close to forcing overtime and didn't get it. I just do not like the Michigan offense. I just don't know what they're going to be able to do, but the Notre Dame offense is an even bigger enigma. So, I mean, I guess, short of, we can't have a tie. So, I mean, I think Michigan will eke one out in a game that will probably send me to Netflix 2 or 3 times, midway through, just because it's just hurting my eyes.
Go watch El Camino.
I already have in Fat Todd.
Notre Dame, I think, is better than anybody's given them credit for. They're 5-1, lost the 1 game at Georgia. Really, they were dominating USC and kind of fell asleep at the wheel. And, of course, that was a primetime game. Ohio State may have been in an open week that week a couple of weeks ago, and I don't think anybody in the country was watching that because I think that was the same time as LSU Florida and another really good game. Mm-hmm. That was the 3rd best game going, and to Notre Dame's benefit, nobody saw them collapse in the second half, and they had to recover an onside kick at the end to beat an unranked USC team, and granted it was at South Bend. But up until then, they played really good football. I think they're better than they were last year when they were 12-0. Strange to say, because Book's a year older. I guess I would say they have the potential to be better than they were a year ago. But back to what Kevin is saying, their schedule is so bad this year, and it's not their fault. It's just the way it worked out. I mean, when Virginia is one of the ranked teams that you played, and they're no longer ranked. You played at Georgia. That's your 1 game. Michigan, for 100 years has been a top 10 team, and this year they're not. Granted, for the last 10 or 15 years, they've been borderline top 10, but that's like your second best opponent on your schedule. Stanford's a disaster. As Kevin said, from here on out, they play no ranked teams after Michigan, at least currently ranked teams. And I think an 11-1 Notre Dame has no chance, and I mean less than no chance to make the playoff. One, based on the bias, and it shouldn't be this way. It shouldn't be this way. Just as Clemson and Alabama should not be overstated on the basis of what they've done over the last 5 years, great as it may be. But those teams, if the season ended today, I put a big story on Bucknuts today. I've got Ohio State looking at all the criteria, record of your opponents, ranked teams that you've played, Sagarin, AP poll, coaches poll, and who's got the best combination, offense and defense in the country? It's Ohio State. Ohio State would be 1, LSU would be 2, Alabama would be 3, and Clemson would barely, and I mean barely, be number 4 over Oklahoma. And that's got nothing to do with the fact that they're the defending champions, just where they deserve to be. If people looked at things where they deserve to be, that's how it would be, in my opinion. Well, I shouldn't even say that. It's not an opinion. I laid it all out. I put it across there. You have to read it if you want. It's a free story. I've seeded the teams as of this point of the season, and so much is going to change as we go down the stretch here with Ohio State, with tough games. 4 ranked teams in the last 6 weeks for Ohio State, starting with Wisconsin, if they make the championship game. But in terms of Notre Dame and Michigan, I think about our friend Kyle Rowland, covered Michigan the last couple of years, and he said if they lost to Penn State, a conference game, it wouldn't surprise him if they had nothing left to give for Notre Dame. Honestly, they laid down the first quarter, down 21-0, and then came back and made a game of it. It was 28-21, the final score, dropped the touchdown that would have tied it and sent it to overtime, although you just wonder, would Sneaky Jim have gone for 2 on the road had the kid caught the touchdown? Well, one of those things we'll never know, will we? You can't get a straight answer out of the guy. People asked him 20 questions on Monday, this, that, and the other. The only thing he had an in-depth answer to was about the student who had a bad comment about Bell dropping the touchdown. He spoke for over a minute about how bad that was. If you ask him about the state of his offense, we're getting better. We're trying. It's a two-sentence answer.
Well, Steve,
I digress. Dave, for 40 minutes yesterday, gave us everything we could possibly want to know about Ohio State, and that's where the contrast lies. One is a confident leader of men. The other guy, I hate to say this, he lost whatever he had. In 1986, this guy was as brash can be, and today he's a shell of his former self. That's all I have to say about that man. He doesn't bring it like he used to. I'll just leave it at that. But I think Michigan gives these guys a good game. Michigan could steal it, could go down the last play. Who knows? Flip a coin. Should be a great game, though. I think they're evenly matched, to be honest with you.
I was hoping this whole report of him looking to leave for the NFL would make him angry, because we need an angry Jim Harbaugh back. Because you're right, Steve. He's
him on the sideline.
Exactly.
If a defensive pass interference call goes against him, he's looking up at the board with that. Yeah. You got to put the camera on me for 1 second, and I wish I had my glasses here. Put the camera on me for once. Can you? Okay. Am I capturing it? That stare off into space, look at the board for where was the penalty. If we've seen that once, we've seen it 30 times this year as the guys look for help from the board. Hey, they're playing football right in front of you, and the next play's coming up in 10 seconds, and you better get ready for it, because he's like a deer in the headlights. One thing goes against him, and he curls up in the fetal position. That's not the Jim Harbaugh I grew up with. Give me the old Jim Harbaugh. Give me the Jim Harbaugh who goes out there and declares we're going to beat Ohio State. I haven't seen that Jim Harbaugh yet.
I want to see just even the Pete Carroll, what's your deal, Jim Harbaugh?
Yes.
From the early days at Stanford. Just bring it back. Regarding going for 2, I think they would have gone for 2, but Shea Patterson would have missed the pass. So they still would have lost. So the drop isn't that big of a deal. But yeah, we need some attitude back from Jim Harbaugh, and maybe that happens if they beat Ohio State this year, and then I guess it's
How
be
about a
careful what you
pulse?
ask for.
Way too passionate about wanting this Jim Harbaugh and that Jim Harbaugh. I'm perfectly fine with the current Jim Harbaugh.
We're getting the Jim Harbaugh we deserve.
Because I know that I can write my story at halftime, and if we're up Ann Arbor, I can stop in Bowling Green and go have wings at Frickers and a couple of beers. So
Take a walk around the newly
Local
improved concourse.
that's there right now is perfectly fine if from an Ohio State standpoint.
He's doing great.